As long as you understand where you go from arm in guillotine if it starts failing, and I don't just accept it failing and then I let go and I'm in my closed guard, it's not where we want to be. Well, I mean, it's relative. It's not where we want to be from where we came from. I want to make sure that if I started with Williams or overhook or clamp, that I at least get back to a starting point of closed guard was not my starting point when I started the submission chain. So at least I'm back to Williams, or at least I'm back to trap triangle, at least I'm back to clamp, something like that. Then I've got success with my attack. It wasn't a successful submission, but my system restarts. All right, it's time to take a look at the omoplata. And omoplata, as I've mentioned throughout this video, it's something when you use Williams guard and when you use clamp guard, overhook guard, not typically so much. It depends because you sometimes don't have the ability to move them into omoplata until you get into where you're in clamp or you're just very flexible. Omoplata is going to be one of our best friends. Okay, and so if omoplata is one of our best friends, we don't necessarily need to finish with omoplata. Although we are going to take a look at a very distinct grip that, in my opinion, is the one that you should always try to achieve when you hit omoplata. It is, in my opinion, the gold standard of finishing omoplata. If you secure this grip, which is a head-arm grip, C-clamp, your training partner or opponent will have very, very little left in them to get out. So it's something that we're going to look at how to get and how to keep. But what I really want to take a look at is the counters to the counters, so you are armed with a succession of, if you hit an omoplata and they counter you, you can move into other systems or move into other submissions. So we're gonna be discussing that. Something that we have to do first and foremost is I love to look at the omoplata as I interpret it and as I feel like it's best served. This is going to be contrary to what a lot of you see in tournaments now. I've watched thousands and thousands and thousands of matches. I don't know how many matches I've watched commentating, but I've watched a lot. And I will say that I feel pretty strongly in that when an omoplata is locked a specific way, that the percentage of getting out is much higher than what we're going to take a look at. I've been doing omoplatas as part of this guard for a very, very, very long time. I'd also like to say that there's a really nice saying I got from a good buddy of mine, is that there's no right or wrong, there's only consequences. Okay? And I'm a firm believer in that in jiu-jitsu, because I've seen it all, almost. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing more, but I've seen athletes pull off stuff that technically high-level coaches would say that's wrong, and it still works. I've seen discrepancies in experience prove that wrong, quote-unquote, wrong techniques can work. I've seen exhaustion prove that wrong techniques can work. So there are a lot of variables when you are training. There are a lot of variables when you are competing that will allow techniques, and inefficient ones, to say the least, work. So you have to keep these things in mind. My job as a coach and a contributor to the Society of Jiu-Jitsu is to try to find the most efficient way to do things. And if I find a more efficient way, I like to present it. And if I'm incorrect and there's a more efficient way and I learn it, I'll present that. As I mentioned earlier, I've done an opposite side triangle that way for many years and had success with it. But my good friend, who is quite a genius, has proven that there's a more efficient way, so I'm moving into that realm now. But I believe that the other one still works. Omoplata is no different. So here are the problem. Here's the common omoplata, how people lock it, the problems with it, and let's look at what we need from a good omoplata. Okay? Especially no gi, because I might warrant that with the gi, a tight triangle in omoplata, I'll show you, works much better than without the gi. You have handles, you have a collar, you have sleeves, you have all these things to grip when you do an omoplata with the gi that you do not have when you have no gi. And this is why the omoplata is the way that I like it now, because we did a lot, and I still do not a majority, it might be a majority no gi training. I do both, but I like my techniques to work gi and no gi, so I don't rely on the grip of a gi unless I have to, or if it's for play to teach and educate students or the community. When we lock omoplata, you are going to see, this is very common, okay? If I'm locking Kyle out, it is extremely common that we see this, okay? A pulling of the foot over the face. This is very, very common. Anytime we're going on omoplata, if I go with my foot over his face, this is going to be a problem, okay? You already see that there's an enormous gap between the crook of my knee and his shoulder. So that means there is zero weight right now on his shoulder, and he can move up into that gap. So when we pull the foot over the face, we cannot have true weight on the shoulder, which can lead to things like posture. It can lead to things like a limp arm. If he just limp arms out, and I'm trying to make my omoplata tight, he limps his arm out, gone. Okay, especially when it's sweaty. So this is problem number one. And I find that the more flexible you are, the more you will try this to get away with an omoplata, because you can do it when someone is driving into you. So you say, okay, omoplata, I'm going to pull my foot in front of their face. I did this, and it's not the best way to do an omoplata, okay? You're going to set yourself up for failure if he's very, very adept at counting.